Hello, I'm Dr. Chris Walton. This video that I've got for you here is a presentation that I did to my subscriber list. It is called How Your Personal Energy Field Controls Your Manifestations and How to Optimize Your Energy Field to Maximize Your Success. That's a right long title, isn't it? So if you're watching this on YouTube, I put the time codes in because this is about an hour and a half content. And I didn't quite get the Zoom settings right, so you'll hear me and you'll see the slides, but I couldn't get me on the screen. I don't know what was going on with that. So this is the sort of thing you can listen to in the background and just sort of take in the information if you're interested in this type of thing. So you can flick to the exciting bits. There's some amazing studies here that we really want to know the impact of literally the fact that we have an energy field, what our energy field is, how it works, that we have an energy field that we broadcast, and that energy field interacts with the grander field and starts to manifest into physical things. So this is amazing content, amazing information, and some of the scientific studies, everything is underpinned here by science, what we know about the way our energy field interacts with the physical world, and how by changing our energy field, by changing our mindset and our energy, we can improve, increase, and accelerate our manifestations of our goals and desires. Fascinating topics. As I say, if you're watching this on YouTube, check the time codes if you don't want to watch it all. But this is something to have on in the background. But this information is essential if you're really interested in personal growth and manifestation. So enjoy this, and I'll see you on the next one. If you like the video, click the like button, leave a little comment, and consider subscribing. Thank you. Welcome, everybody. I'm Dr. Chris Walton, and the presentation I'm running tonight is called How Your Personal Energy Field Controls Your Manifestations and How to Optimize Your Field to Maximize Your Success. So what we're going to do in today's session is we're going to go over some of this. We're going to look at, is manifestation real or is it well-marketed snake oil? This is something we want to know. We want to know, can we manifest our goals and desires? Can we? Can our mind and energy change physical matter? Is that something that we can actually do with our mind and energy and consciousness? Can we change physical matter? Or have we been sold a story? Have we been sold what I call the toy shop universe, which is basically where here we are on little planet Earth, and we are in the middle of a small little solar system, in the middle of a small little part of a galaxy with trillions upon trillions of other stars and galaxies and solar systems and maybe even universes. But we've been sold the story, perhaps, that our universe is like a toy shop to us and that we can create, that universe is actually there for us to create something. So we want to know, is there any validation to that? Is that a real thing, or is it just a toy shop universe, somebody selling us a story? And if so, how can we optimize our manifestation abilities? So let me just review this here. This is what we're going over in the presentation. Is manifestation real or well-marketed snake oil? Can we manifest our goals and desires? Can our mind and energy change physical matter? Or have we been sold the story of the toy shop universe? How can we optimize our manifestation abilities? What do we actually do? How can we do that? We're going to look at the science. We're not going to look at the sales fluff and the hyped law of attraction. We're going to get down to the reality of, does our energy field have an impact on the external world? And we're going to look at the science and what that tells us. We're going to see some examples of manifestation, which are quite interesting, and you can make up your mind what's happening there. I'm going to also take you later on through the subconscious manifestation test. So this is a simple test, tuning into your subconscious reaction, testing the core beliefs, the fundamental core beliefs at the subconscious level to be able to manifest. So that's quite an interesting, simple little test, but can be very surprising. And then towards the end, we're going to do a guided gamma mindset session to integrate the core subconscious beliefs for manifestation. So this is a big bonus to this session, because you're going to test yourself on those beliefs with the subconscious manifestation test, and then you'll realize, oh, perhaps I'm not fully aligned as I thought I was. And then we're going to integrate those beliefs in a gamma session, and then you can test yourself again to find out whether it's worked for you. Okay, so step one in the process then is to find out, well, what is the personal energy signature? What is this signature? So let's have a look at this. Okay, so to start with, one of the most interesting aspects of an energy field, an energy signature, is that every human being and every organic living thing emits particles of light, waves and particles of light called biophotons, and they're emitted from every cell of our body. From every strand of our DNA, we emit particles of light. Now, obviously, we can't see them with our eyes, but if you've got the right kit, the right devices, you can measure this. This is the image of an energy field. So on this one, you can see there's holes and gaps and irregularities, and incoherence is the word that we need to think of. It's incoherent. Then you can do a 5-6 minute gamma session, and you can see your field changes like this. So you go from an incoherent field to a very coherent field. So this is our biophoton emissions. We are broadcasting our light from every cell of our body. So we know that energy field is a real thing, and that's really important. Now, what we also know is when we broadcast light, that's what's called coherent light, then we are healthy, we are energized, we are in a good state of being. When we have incoherent light, like we have here, we're either stressed, there's a disease process taking place or about to take place, we're unhealthy or less healthy. So this is very important. The coherence of the light field determines the health of the body. It's expressing, if you like, the health of the body. Our physical health, our mental health, our emotional health, and our spiritual connection. That's what we're broadcasting in this field. So we know the energy field is real. Now, there's an interesting study done by Professor Konstantin Karatkov's colleagues where they separated emotionally bonded pairs like brother and sister, husband and wife, boyfriend and girlfriend, somebody that you've got an emotional bond with, and they had one person in one room, and then in a completely different building, another person. That's it, like two separate people. And they started measuring their biophoton emissions. Now, one of those people is the sender, and the other is the receiver, okay? So all the sender is told to do is to get into a loving state and think of that other person and send love to that other person, right? That's all they're told to do in two separate buildings, sender, receiver. So what happened in the sender's biophotons, they saw that their baseline pre-meditation emissions were 20 photons per second. So if you have one of these fancy gadgets, you could work out that each second, the body's emitting from every aspect 20 photons per second, okay? Then, when the person entered their heart-centered state, they got more into the zone of feeling the love and thinking of that other person and sending the love, the photon emissions, their energy field, increased to 37,500 to between 37,500 and 45,000 photons per second. So you can see an immediate massive increase when a person goes into a heart-centered state in their energy field. Now, when the person was fully immersed in this heart-based state, their emissions went up to over 1 million photons per second. So this is a really important experiment and study because it shows us, firstly, well, we do have an energy field. We know that. We've got biophoton emissions from every cell of the body. If we're not healthy, the the light is incoherent. If we're healthy, it's coherent. And we can send it. And when we start, this is where we're at 20 photons per second. When we get into the zone, into that heart state, what's happened to my slide here? 37.5 to 45,000 photons per second. And then when you're fully immersed in that heart-based state, sending love to another person, your energy field expands to over 1 million photons per second. Now, you just imagine the difference in your own mind of 20 photons per second and 1 million photons per second. That's a very, very different energy field, of course, that we're broadcasting. What was also very interesting with this is the loving energy was received by the receiver's heart within a second or two of being sent. So that was measured, and their pulse went up by 10 to 15 beats per minute. Now, if you're sitting there and all of a sudden your pulse raises for 15 beats, increases 15 beats per minute, you would know that. You would feel it. So like, what's that? Like something's just happened to you. So this is very interesting because we are broadcasting this energy field. The sender is sending this loving energy in their mind and their heart to this person in another building. The person in the other building's biophotons go up, but also their pulse goes up by 10 to 15 beats per minute. So we know that we have an energy field that has an impact on the external world, just from this experiment alone, because this is absolutely fascinating, right? So this was a study measuring the photon emissions as people are just about to die. So as they're coming out, you can read that slide. It says, hypothesis about brilliant lights by bioluminescent photons in near-death experiences. So this is a situation where people were the last days of their life, and the researchers were measuring their photons, the emissions that we've just seen in that previous experiment. And this blue line here is interesting. So this is just a graph of the numbers, the emissions, and you can see on this horizontal axis, the blue is when the person actually died. So you will see here on this horizontal axis, there's sort of like, as it's coming up to a couple of days before they die, their emissions increase. Now, you would probably think it would do the opposite. It would decrease as somebody's coming to the end of their life. But they increase their emissions, which is sort of interesting. But the most interesting one is this blue line. This is the point of death. And this is where they saw this huge spike in biophoton emissions. So as the person dies, there's an explosion of emissions of light coming from their body, and it's gone. Now, I don't know about you, but I find that absolutely fascinating. So what is that? Is that the soul? Is that taking all the information that you've learned in your life, packaged in light waves and sent back to the soul family, or sent somewhere else? Or, is it this is fascinating to do. It's also been replicated by another scientist that got exactly the same results, that at death, there's a huge burst of light, a huge burst of biophoton emissions, which is interesting stuff, isn't it? So how else do we know that we've got an energy field? Are there any other ways that we can look at this and know that we have got an energy field that's having an impact on our external world? Well, we can measure the brain in two ways, or several ways. We can measure it by putting electrodes on the scalp, which measures the electrical activity in the brain. I've done some of that with my research, but that's called EEG, electroencephalogram. Or we can use something called an MEG, which is called a magnetoencephalogram or encephalography. And here, the guy is sitting in a machine, this MEG, and what this is actually doing is measuring the energy field around his head. So it's not touching, there's nothing touching the head. It's measuring the magnetic activity around the head, the magnetic field around the head, which is created by the electrical activity in the brain. So this shows us, well, that's quite clear. We're broadcasting signals from the brain. We're broadcasting a magnetic field from the brain. We also know that the heart has a very powerful electromagnetic energetic field, and the heart's electromagnetic and electrical energy is 50 times greater than the brain. That electrical pulsing and beating of the heart is up to around 50 times more powerful than the electrical activity of the brain. And this is a sort of a image of the heart field. So the field that the heart emits, as well as the brain, this field of energy that the heart emits is thought to be emotional energy, because when we change our emotional state, this energy field changes. We can measure this energy field around 12 to 15 feet outside the body. So you're measuring that field outside the body. And when the person goes from a heart-centered state to an angry state or a stressed state, there's a very different signature in that heart field that we're broadcasting. So we can see that not only are we emitting biophotons from every cell of the body, we're emitting fields from the brain, we're emitting fields from the heart. And this is a quote from the Heart Math Institute, who have done a lot of research on this. This is one of their slides where it says the heart radiates an electromagnetic field affecting each other's moods, attitudes, and feelings, whether we are conscious of it or not. So these are the most powerful, I think, experiments that really show us that our energy field really impacts physical matter and can change physical matter. This is really important. So this is a very well-respected professor of material sciences from Stanford University in the States, Professor William Tiller. He actually died 2 years ago at the grand age of 92. He was a really lovely, lovely man and an extremely rigorous, excellent scientist. And he created something called the 4 experiments that will change the world. And I want to highlight the first one to you. I'm going to quickly tell you what the other 4 were, the other 3 were, but the first one is the one we're going to focus on. You couldn't hear this part for some reason on the original recording, so I'm just coming in to do this little section. Professor Tiller's IIED, the Intention Imprinted Electronic Device. So they had, I think, 6 colleagues and himself and his wife meditating into this device, this IIED, basically a plastic box with an electrical circuit, meditating into it, that they want to increase the pH of this solution by 1 point. That's the intention that they're meditating into. Just something like this. Just something like this. A simple little plastic box with an electrical circuit in it. And they do that for 15 minutes. Hold this intention into this plastic box with the circuit. And then after 15 minutes, that's it. They come out of their sort of meditation. And that box is sent off to the other side of the States to a lab and put next to a vial of solution in a refrigerator. They had a control where exactly the same has happened. So the IIED, the little plastic box with the electrical circuit, was also sent off, but there's no intention in that one, to the lab and put in a different refrigerator next to a vial of solution. Within 3 weeks, the vial of solution that was next to the imprinted device actually increased the pH by 1 point. So somehow that intention in that electronic device got interacted at that informational level, interacted with the pH, the ions and the molecules of that fluid, and raised that pH by 1 point, because that was the intention that was held in that electronic circuit that it was next to. That's quite a mind stretch for most of us, I imagine. But Professor Tiller was an exceptionally rigorous, very well respected scientist with hundreds of published papers, at Stanford. Very, very intelligent, amazing man. And so that's what happened. And in the control, nothing happened. The solution didn't change at all. So this study he replicated and was getting the same results on replication, except the time frame from when the pH change got less. The more the studies were done, the less time it took to get the pH to raise, as if that informational template's now in the matrix, in the informational field, so it gets in and somehow happens quicker. It's mind-boggling. So that is what this study showed. So I think now it moves on to a slide, hopefully back to the presentation. So Professor Tiller says this. From this research, I and my colleagues have discovered that it is possible to make a significant change in the properties of a material substance by consciously holding a clear intention to do so. Because I think this really starts to highlight just how powerful we are, and we are, even, like I say, we're not even scratching the surface. We're not even close to scratching the surface with the power of our consciousness. Okay. So there's another quote here from another rigorous scientist called Professor Gary Schwartz. And this is what he says. Actually, non-physical energetic communication is happening each and every moment, whether you're aware of it or not. One person's consciousness and energy can affect the physicality, biochemistry, cellular function, and conscious experience of someone else, either locally in close proximity or even hundreds or thousands of miles away. So again, that's something to really reflect on. Our consciousness and energy can affect the physicality, the biochemistry, the functions of the cells, the conscious experience of someone else locally or hundreds of thousands of miles away. That's a very powerful energetic field that we have. All right, so I think what this does, or what it can do, or hopefully should do, is start to allow us to see ourselves with a more expanded view, a more expanded perspective of who we are, what we are, and how we fit into a bigger scheme of things. And an aspect that I like to think of when we're thinking about who we are, what we are deep down, and how do things work, is we have a look at these slides here. Every 5 days, the stomach lining is replacing itself. Every 30 days, the skin is completely renewed from new cells. Every 6 weeks, the whole liver has recycled to a new liver. Within 1 year, all the brain cells have been recycled into new ones. Every 6 weeks, the raw material of the DNA is replaced. 98% of all the atoms that make up the cells, or the molecules and the cells in the body, are replaced within a year. And within 4 years, the entire body has been remade down to the last atom. So if we think of it like that, then we also look at the atom and go, okay, so the whole body in 4 years has been completely remade. And we know that an atom is 99.999 and onwards energy, space, energy and information in that space, with just a smidgen, a little bit of physicalness. And if we're made up of those atoms, which make the molecules, which make the cells, which make the tissues, the organs, the muscles, and here we are, if we're made up of those atoms, then really, from a different perspective, we're actually more energy than we are substance, if that's what an atom is. 99.999% energy and information. We're actually more energy and information than we are physical being. And this is, of course, a very different way of viewing ourselves. All right. Now, this leads us to a very important decision, This is really the crux of it all. This principle, this decision that you make now, really determines what level of power you have. And it comes down to this. Consciousness. So you've got two ways of looking at consciousness. What makes you conscious? Why are you a conscious human being? What allows you to have consciousness? Consciousness is a very interesting thing to explore. It's something that I've been researching and exploring for, I don't know, maybe 30 years, if not more, depending on where we start, right? But I've been exploring altered states of consciousness and consciousness itself in depth, in many ways, from academic to ayahuasca, from the jungles to the laboratories, to brain measurements, to taking all sorts of potions and lotions to expand consciousness. I've done a lot of this research, a lot of this experience of consciousness. And you've basically got two ways of looking at it. This is the way science looks at it. You've got something called an upward causation of consciousness. And an upward causation of consciousness means that as your body forms, somehow from the atoms to the molecules, and then we become born into a little baby, into cells, and then we grow up, and then we have a full body, and then we grow into an adult. And at some way during that process, consciousness appears from the brain. That's what an upward causation means. It means the consciousness is at the top of the chain. You've got atoms, molecules, cells, tissues, body, and so forth and so on. And then the brain forms and we have consciousness. Upward causation, that's what cause. But it's important to think about this, because that means that you think, if that's what you believe, you think that your consciousness is because your brain is firing. Your brain is creating consciousness. And this is like a mainstream view in neuroscience, that the brain activity creates consciousness. And in the sciences, it's called the hard problem. And it's the biggest problem in all of the sciences in all of the world, that nobody nowhere on the planet knows why we are conscious. It's like, well, there's a brain having electrical chemical activity, and somehow we have a conscious experience. Nobody knows how that works. It's called the hard problem. How does something hard like a brain create awareness? Well, it doesn't, I can tell you that. But that's what a mainstream view is. Now, the other view is downward causation. And downward causation means that consciousness starts first. So that when we break that body down, physical structure of the body into cells, into molecules, into atoms, and then we're told that the atom is energy and information, and then you break that down and you're into that subatomic world of energy fields and waves of energy and all that sort of stuff. That is where consciousness starts. So downward causation means consciousness is first, that the field of consciousness is a field of energy and information which everything comes from. Everything. Planets, galaxies, people, atoms, molecules, everything comes from a field of consciousness. And that's called downward causation. And that's a very different view from an upward causation. Because if you really understand that consciousness is sometimes called the ground of all being, where everything comes from, everything is manifest from that field, then that gives you power. But if you think your consciousness is created by the brain, the reason you're conscious and have a conscious experience is created by the brain, well, that limits you a little bit, because it's not how it is. Now, I know that personally myself, because this is something, like I say, I researched a lot. And in the year 2000, I went to a place called the Monroe Institute in America. And the Monroe Institute is a research organization into consciousness. They have a specific patented sound technology called hemisync. And you do week-long retreats where you're using these guided sessions of hemisync through 4, 5, 6 sessions a day over a week in this guided format. And their first program is called the Gateway Voyage. This is the Monroe Institute. It's just outside Charlottesville in Virginia, in America. Beautiful place. It's absolutely stunning area, and bottom of the Blue Ridge Mountains. Now, I did a program on there. Their first program is called the Gateway Voyage. And the whole idea of this program is to prove to yourself that you are more than your physical body. That's the whole idea of the program. So, cut a long story short, on the 6th day, we start the program on the Sunday. On the Thursday, we'd probably done about 30 of these sessions. I'm just going to show you a little image here. This image here is what's called a CHEK unit, CHEK, Controlled Holistic Environmental Chamber. Must be a C, not K at the end, C, CHEK unit. And you lie in there. This is like built into the wall. You lie in there, and that black sheet goes across and gets like firmed secure there. And that blocks out any electromagnetic signals. And you put your headphones on. It's very dark in there. And then from the main sort of switchboard, there's about 30 of you going through this same process. There's about 20 different rooms and 2 to 3 to a room. And you're going through this process where it's like guided visualization, guided imagery, changing your brainwave frequencies. And you're on this fully like 6-7 day guided journey as a group. And it's a really powerful experience. It's a really powerful place. I spent 8 weeks there. I did 8 of their programs between 2000 and 2004. I'm going to share some of those shortly. But on this one, the first one, on the Thursday, I was in the booth, as it's called, the check unit there, and I had my headphones on. I was in a very, very deep state. And there was a period where I popped outside my body. My consciousness, as Chris, popped outside my body. And I was above my body, looking down at myself in this unit here, in this exact check unit. I was looking down at myself from above, seeing myself with a mask on, my headphones on, and just being in this, you know, totally sort of heightened, expanded state of consciousness. I was looking at myself. And then there was a period of time, and I don't know, it's very difficult, but somewhere between 4 to 20 seconds, I reckon, I was in that state. And then there was a point where the physicalness of Chris realized I was out of my body. And there was this massive fear response. And it felt like I'd been dropped. If you can imagine being held and then dropped, that's how it felt. And I literally landed back in my body, and it literally felt like I'd been dropped back into my body. And I went like that. Oh my God, like that. And I was like, oh my God. And I took my mask off and my headphones off, and I swung my legs out there. And there was another guy in the room, a guy called Jeff from Liverpool, who I'd never met before, became a very close friend of mine after that. And he'd had exactly the same experience. And there was another guy in the room that was having some wild experience. But my friend Jeff had this exact same experience. And then from that moment on, I knew that was an absolute game-changing moment in my life. Like, it was so real, so more real than anything in normal life, as it were. I knew from that moment on, okay. Oh, wow. Holy shit, man. This is a game changer. Like, consciousness is not created in the brain. Oh, consciousness is a field of energy and information, and I'm a part of that consciousness. And I choose to have a physical experience out of that field of consciousness. Bearing in mind, if you're a downward causation, consciousness is first. That can't happen if you're an upward causation and you think the brain's creating consciousness. That obviously can't happen. But I knew it. I'd experienced it, that we were part of an infinite field of energy and information, where all the information and all the answers we need are available to us. And it was a game-changing moment for me. I was 30 years old. I was still working in the fitness industry at the time. And then when I came back, that all changed, because my paradigm had been shattered, like absolutely obliterated. I knew, oh, wow, this is a different ballgame. And that changed my life completely. And then over the last 25 years, I've explored consciousness in depth, in many forms, in many, many ways. Like I say, from the jungles and ayahuasca to measuring brains, to measuring energy fields, to taking drugs, to doing all sorts of ways of expanding and trying to, expand that consciousness beyond the body. Now, we have some science around this as well, which is called entanglement and non-locality. So this idea of entanglement is exactly that. It's at this deepest level, at this level of consciousness, everything is entangled. Everything is connected. It's one underlying field of energy and information. And there's some nice studies that show this. There's a study from the University of Montana, which had husband and wife pairs. And so you're emotionally bonded. This was husband and wife. And they had the husband in one room and the wife in another room. And they were measuring their brainwave activity with the EEG. Excuse me. And at a random time, the husband was told to plunge his feet. They also had a control group, right? So they had a control to this who didn't do anything. They had a man in one room, woman in the other, and they didn't do anything, right? But the actual active participants, the man was told to plunge his feet into ice water. Now, you can imagine if you put your feet in ice water, you're immediately going to have a stress response. You're measuring the brain. You're going to go into high beta. That's going to be a stress response. What was interesting is, though, when the husband did that and got this stress response in the brain from the shock of the cold water, so did the wife. The wife's brain waves mirrored the husband's brainwaves, and she had no idea what was happening. She wasn't putting her feet into ice water. And so this shows this entanglement at a physical, real physical human being level of changes in brain activity through this bonding, one person having the stress, the other person also feeling that stressor. You know, it wasn't going to hurt them. There was no danger there, but that's an interesting experiment. There were two other experiments. There are actually tons of experiments, but two other I want to mention in this. This was from Mexico, from Professor Jacobo Grinsberg and Dr. Juliet Ramos. So these were the researchers in Mexico. Professor Grinsberg, he had similar setup. So bonded pairs again, one person in one room, one person in another. And in this one, if you can imagine, you're in one room and you're in the other, and again you've got controls where nothing happens. And what happened this time? He just got this little laser light and flashed it sort of like over the pupil like that. And of course, as soon as you do that, you're going to get activity in the occipital region, the back of the brain there, where all the visual processing happens. So you're going to get some activity there because you're shining a light in the eye. Now, the same thing happened again. So as soon as that light was shone in the eye of the husband or the loving part or the bonded partner, the other person's brain waves also had activity, increased activity in the visual centers of the brain. So that's, again, showing this entanglement. And they also did another experiment, very similar setup, but this time, rather than the eye as the stimulus, let's just say person A was told to, at random times, think of their loving partner who's in another room. And again, they're both having the brains measured. And what they saw was that when the person really thought about their partner and really felt that love for them, there was a synchronization of their brain waves. Even though they're in two completely different rooms, the one person who's thinking about their partner and the partner themselves, their brain waves synchronize. They show the same level of activity. So this goes under the banner, of entanglement and non-locality, showing us this interconnectivity of all of us from our energy field. So this is fascinating stuff. Okay, go now to 1999, and I have the pleasure to meet this man. This is a guy called Dr. Edgar Mitchell, and he was the 6th man to walk on the moon. And he came to London and he did 2 lectures at the College of Psychic Studies, which is a very old college, like from 1890 in Kensington in London. I used to go there and listen to some lectures and stuff. And he did these 2 lectures, which were just mind-boggling lectures, like blew my mind. It was sort of really before my sort of spiritual journey started. I was 29, blew my mind. Absolutely amazing man. But here is what he said. Here is what he said. We create our own reality because our inner subconscious reality draws us into situations from which we learn. We experience it as strange things happening to us, and we meet the people in our lives we need to learn from. And so we create these circumstances at a very deep, metaphysical, and subconscious level. Again, want to just let yourself percolate with what he's actually saying there. We create our reality because our inner subconscious reality draws us into situations from which we learn. That's an important point. We experience it as strange things happening to us, and we meet people in our lives we need to learn from. And so we create these circumstances at a very deep, metaphysical, and subconscious level. Okay, so this is an attempted image here. I don't know if you can see that in the middle. That says energy and information, which creates atoms. And remember, if you believe that consciousness is the ground of all being, which I do, then everything comes from consciousness. Every single little thing comes from consciousness. So we call this the field of energy information, which creates the atoms. Then they create the molecules, the cells, the organs. Here we are as human beings, part of groups and societies, part of Earth, part of the solar system, galaxies, part of the universe and beyond. We're broadcasting our energy field all the way through from the origins of our consciousness, which is the ground of all being, if you take that belief system. what do we need to do to increase our ability to manifest? Like what can we do? And inevitably, an energy field can either be coherent, like I showed you right at the start, or incoherent, or a mix. And so the two things that are important are coherence and power. Coherence and power. Now, coherence is the order of your field, the structure. So rather than like the first slides where you saw that energy field with holes and gaps and incoherent bits, that's incoherence. Coherence is a full energy field, which means you're broadcasting a powerful signal without any resistance, without any blocks, without any parts of you going, yes, I can, no, I can't. I'm good enough, no, I'm not. I can do it, no, I can't. You know, incoherence there in the mental field. So coherence and power of your field has to have an impact, because the more coherent and powerful your field, the more impact that has on that consciousness at atoms, molecules level, the more it can start to literally form the physical stuff. So right down at the deepest level, this is what probably could be happening. How do we optimize our personal energy field to maximize our success, right? So the first thing we need to do is clear emotional stress, because emotional stress is emotional stress. It's negative, it's stress chemistry, and stress chemistry reduces your energy field and makes it incoherent. So this is literally one of the first things to clear any anxiety, fear, self-doubt, frustrations, anger, resentment, guilt, anything, any emotional stress that you may have on a theme, or that you simply experience too much of. You would like to experience less of it. And of course, so many people today experience a lot of anxiety and self-doubt and fear. There's so much uncertainty in the world, so much insecurity in the world, nothing safe. You know, the systems that we're all in now are changing so rapidly. So clearing the emotional stress is absolutely crucial, because you've got to be balanced. And if you're not balanced, you can never have a strong energy field. So that's a crucial one, and something that most people miss. Then we're into the subconscious. Updating what we believe deep down about ourselves, our abilities, what we can achieve in life, the success that we can create, having that deeply integrated into our subconscious, and updating all of that old conditioning that we've had from our own childhood, our own personal history, that's just simply outdated. It's no longer serving us. So that's certainly something that we have to do, and I'm going to explain that a bit more. And then I think the other aspect is changing your belief about the nature of reality and about who you are deep down. Because yes, of course, we have a physical body, and we've got a personality, and we've got a temperament, and we're going to die at some stage. We're here for a physical world, right? But deep down, that's not the level of our identity. That's just the physicalness of the identity. You know, deep down, we're much, much more than that. Deep down, we are consciousness. We come from that field. Everything comes from that field. So deep, deep, deep down, that's who we are. Once you're fully embedded in that consciousness state, you are literally embodying full consciousness, and then get into a deep state of that consciousness connected to the field, and then set your intentions from there. Just like William Tiller, Professor Tiller, with the 6 people around on the vial, you know, sending that vial into sending that intention into the device. You know, that's where the power comes from, because we're coming from a place of full interconnectedness, not just our individual separate selves with a body and an ego and a personality and whatnot. This is where, you know, this is where it's at. Merging with the field, experiencing that sort of spiritual type experience, and being able to access that, being able to tap that is a very, very powerful thing to be able to do, you know, on a frequent sort of basis. I want to show one example of manifestation. This happened to me, and it was 2005. Okay, I'm going to add that story in here because the audio wasn't so great. There was a bit of talking on the presentation. So 2005, I'm going to the States. spending the summer there facilitating or help facilitating courses with Dr. Bruce Lipton. There was a conference called What the Bleep Do We Know? So that's from a movie called What the Bleep Do We Know that came out in 2005, which really exploded this idea of like the law of attraction, manifestation, and the fact that we can manifest. It was actually where, if you're familiar with Joe Dispenza's works, where he got popular. Nobody knew Joe until that film. He was in that film, and he came out with this story sort of like saying, oh, create your day. You can create your day any way you want it. So obviously when you tell people you can create your day any way you want it every day, people tend to want to know. Not exactly true, but he got popular for that. Anyway, so I'm at the airport and I'm checked in, I got my ticket, and I'm just waiting to board. And I think to myself, right, can I manifest an upgrade? Can I get a business class upgrade now? Now, the second thought that immediately appeared in my head was, well, how are you going to do that? You've already got your ticket. That's not going to happen. It's a fairly logical sort of thought process. So I thought, yeah, but if it did, forget that though, forget that. If it did, and I got an upgrade to business class, how would I feel? And I thought, well, to be honest, I would be in shock. I would be in shock and probably feeling anxious. Like, what's happening? Like that type of feeling. That's probably in reality how I would be feeling, I was thinking to myself. So I thought, well, okay, well, then what would happen? Well, then I'd get showed to the seat. I'd sit down on a business class seat and they'd bring me a glass of champagne. So, well, that's what would happen. And how would I be feeling? I'd be feeling just sort of like still shock and awe and what the hell is happening? Sitting there on the seat with a glass of champagne, drinking the champagne. So I was picturing that and feeling that in my mind and body, right? So I was one of the last to board, like the last sort of 10 or 20 people to board. And I got up to the desk and the guy picked up my ticket, wrote number 10 on it and circled it and gave it back to me, and he said, nice seat. I said, oh, thank you. And didn't register like, I'm thinking, okay. So I walked on the plane, and of course you got right to normal class, and left to business class. So I got to that, and the air steward said, this way, Mr. Walton. Took me into business class. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There you go, sir. Number 10 in business class. Sat down on a long seat. 30 seconds later, bring me a glass of champagne. And it's happening. Like literally what I just saw in the airport lounge is happening. And I'm literally feeling exactly as I thought I'd be feeling. Shock, anxiety, maybe a little bit of fear. Like, okay, this is happening. What's happening? Just waiting to, for the attendant to come up and say, oh, sorry, sir, we put you in the wrong seat. Or sorry, sir, our mistake. Something like that. 20 minutes in, flight takes off, second glass of champagne. 30 minutes in, we're in the air. That's it. And that was it. I got an upgrade all the way to Washington, D.C. from Heathrow in business class. Now, what was all that about? Was that just some random event and it was going to happen to me anyway? I don't know. I've never got a business class upgrade any other time. I've done hundreds of flights. Or was there a need somehow that they had to upgrade somebody, and the fact that I'd put that out there and it was in my energy field interacted with the person's energy field somehow completely subconsciously, and they just chose me? Was that how it worked? That's what I think, because I can't think of another explanation why it works, because it's, I just don't believe that's a totally random event, do you? But that happened, it absolutely happened. So it was like, wow. But it was also quite fitting with the whole theme of the time, because I'd watched the What the Bleep. I was going to, work with Dr. Bruce Lipton about the biology of belief and all that, and the What the Bleep Do We Know movie. I was going to that conference. So that whole theme of like manifestation was really the forefront of my mind. But it's like, how did that happen? And that was a real thing. So, it hasn't happened again. I haven't had an upgrade again, but that happened. Now, I've seen this many, many times, of course. I work in clinic every week. I see clients, I do one-to-one work is a big part of my work. So I see this quite regularly with my clients when they start to change their mindset, start to change their subconscious beliefs and emotions particularly, and get the physical energy sorted. They broadcast a different field and they have a different, what happens to them then moving forward. They're more focused, they're more confident, they take the action, things happen for them. So you see it sort of regularly. My nephew is the classic example, and it's somebody, because he's my nephew, I've followed closely over the years. He left university at 21. He got an IT degree, got himself a job in an area called Woking in the UK, which is a very boring place. There's nothing happening. Didn't have much of a social life at work, and he was straight from university student into this IT job. No friends, no social, no nothing. It was a bit of a shock to his system. And he was feeling a bit stressed, a bit unhappy, as you can imagine, a bit lonely, blah, blah, blah. So we did a little session, clearing his stress, sorting his beliefs, and getting really clear on what he wanted. And what he really wanted was a little house in a country village, which is near his parents, where I grew up in the Midlands, to have his wife, to have kids, to have a job that he could work at home, and everything he wanted, it tickety-boo. And you know what? He has made absolutely everything that we put down in the coaching together. He has absolutely made everything happen as if he could have picked it from a sweet shop or a toy shop. He firstly got an upgrade with his job, got a promotion, which allowed him to work from home. Because he got a promotion, he got more money, he could buy a house and settle down. He had 2 kids, bought another house. Everything that he's put down on his form, he's manifested. He's made it happen. The house, the children, the kids, the job, the location, everything. It's been beautiful to watch. Like, wow, you know. So from my experience, clinically with people, it happens. This happens. It's a real phenomena, you know. So getting back to how do we optimize that field to maximize our success? As I mentioned, we're going to clear the emotional stress. Coherence and power are the key. This is an image of an iceberg, which is a useful image to have in your mind regarding the beliefs and the subconscious difference. So the image of the iceberg, we've got the outcome at the top, and all of us have outcomes, goals, desires, things that we'd like to create. What gives us what do we actually have to do to make that happen? Well, we actually have to do something, don't we? We have to take action in the world. And this is where a lot of people fall a little bit to the wayside with this whole manifestation thing. Depending on the person, the behavior, the way we communicate, the actions that we take in the world are very much dependent on our feelings, on our emotional state. If we're feeling happy and joyful and excited and purposeful and confident, then the person that we show to the world is a very different person to if we're feeling anxious and stressed and a bit worried and all that sort of stuff, you know? We don't show our best selves. But the underlying feelings, of course, are driven by the beliefs at the subconscious level, because the beliefs are our filters of perception. What we believe about ourselves filters the way we will see the world, which controls our emotional state and therefore controls the behaviors. And this is, of course, super important. So we're surrounded by these energy and information fields. Our beliefs create our perceptions, what we believe deep down, particularly at the subconscious. And that tends to be what we sort of create in our life. This is an interesting little quote. We should not ignore compelling brain research that demonstrates that beliefs manifest themselves throughout our bodies. So it's not just something stuck in the head. We're broadcasting that from every cell of our body in our energy field. We're broadcasting our emotional health. We're broadcasting our mental health. We're broadcasting our physical health, and we're broadcasting our spiritual connection, whatever that means to you. That's happening all the time. So we're broadcasting out and we're broadcasting in. These go to every cell of the body through this sort of matrix network, this electrical system of the body. Now, as you may or may not know, the conscious mind and the subconscious mind, they're very different levels of processing power. At the conscious level, we process 40 bits per second through the 5 senses, but at the subconscious level, 40 million bits per second of information that we're processing through the physical senses. So the subconscious mind is 1 million times more powerful at processing information than our conscious mind. So we ask ourselves, what percentage of the day are we thinking, feeling, and taking action from our conscious awareness? And what percentage of the day are we thinking, feeling, and taking action from our subconscious patterns and habits? I'm sure you know this by now if you've been on my site for a little while. At least 95%, up to 99% of our cognitive activity, our thinking, maybe non-conscious. However you call it, non-conscious, unconscious, subconscious, pre-conscious. They've all got variations, but it's simply you're not aware of it. It's just happening. And that's the thing. So you see, this is the example of all the cars are going one way. So that's our conscious mind. That's the goal. I want to be more successful, make more money, you know, have better relationships, be happier, be healthier, you know, work on purpose, feel like I'm doing something that I really enjoy. The goals that we want in life, but you see the other cars going the other way. And that's the subconscious. And that's a conflict. So if we have our conscious goals, but our subconscious mind is not aligned, that's a conflict in the energy field. That's incoherence. And that's broadcasting the signal. Yes, I can. No, I can't. I'm worthy, I'm not worthy. You know, I'm able, I'm not able. Of course I can, no, I can't. Just incoherent signals. And that's probably one of the biggest impacts on manifesting, other than taking action and stuff like that, which we'll come on to. So it's so important to have alignment at the subconscious level with what you actually want to achieve. So you've got no resistance in your subconscious mind when you think about achieving your goals, whatever your goals are. When you think about that, there's no resistance inside. There's no stress response inside. There's a joyful feeling, a feeling of being alive, a feeling of being excited, a feeling of being on purpose, a feeling of want to get on with it. That's how we want to be, because you are coherent. There's no old outdated beliefs chaining you to the past. There's no outdated autopilot emotions, negative emotions, anxiety, fear, self-doubt, frustration, worry, all that stuff. There's none of that bubbling away on autopilot, chaining you to the past. You're free of the past. You've dealt with your past conditioning. You've upgraded your mind, and you're broadcasting a powerful field completely in alignment with what your conscious goal is. That's a different ball game, and not many people do that, because you have to do a bit of work to get there. So we're going to have a little play with that in a minute. This is a question I thought I'd bring in because we've probably all experienced this. What about when your manifestations don't seem to be happening? Okay, I'm meditating, I'm wishing, I'm sending signals, I'm goal setting, I'm doing mantras, I'm doing affirmations, but it ain't happening. It's not manifesting. What's happening? Well, who knows? But a couple of thoughts that I have. One is action. Maybe you need more action. Maybe you need to adapt and change your approach. And I think this is something in the whole intention, law of attraction, create your life the way you want it area, where you've got more charlatans and salespeople. If you go on YouTube, put in law of attraction, it's like, I saw it earlier, like manifest anything you want in 60 seconds. Well, we all know that's not going to happen, but it's a good sensational headline to click on it, and it's more law of attraction waffle, but we all know that's not going to happen. We also all know you can't manifest everything that you want, and you have to be honest about yourself. There's no way I'm going to run a 10-second 100 meters. There's a physicalness to us, isn't there? There's a physical reality to us. This is as real as our energetic self, isn't it? So there are physical realities in our world that we live in, that we have 5 senses in a 3-dimensional world with a 4th dimension of time. There's a reality to that, isn't there? So you can't manifest everything that you want. It isn't a toy shop universe, but you can manifest. Your field effects matter. We know that. But I think one of the biggest things that people let themselves down on is they don't take the action, or they don't take the right action. Why would that be? We're here to take action. This is a physical system to take action in the world. And the way we want to be is that we feel excited to take the action. Our mind is aligned. Our emotions are clear. We're very, very clear and coherent about what we want to achieve. And to achieve that, going back to our iceberg, to achieve the outcome, we have to do something, don't we? We have to take the actions. And I think, as I say, a lot of people don't do that. And the reason they don't do that, or they don't do it appropriately, is underneath, they haven't sorted the subconscious out enough. They've still got doubts and fears, and these doubts and fears and limiting beliefs are creating procrastination, or they don't take the action as well as they could, and things like that. So the whole idea of manifesting it is physically doing something, making it happen. It's not about sitting and meditating and then just sending it out there and praying and hoping. It's about taking action in our life and learning from that action. And I think this is all part of the experience of a human being, isn't it? To be able to learn in the world that we're in. The other aspect to consider, if your manifestations are not happening in the timescales that you want, is divine timing or divine will. And I want to tell you something about that. Now, this is something that my wife and I had a very strong lesson about this. Divine timing and divine will. So 7 years ago, we had a daughter. We're both older parents. I was 47. The wife gave birth at 43. Now, we had planned for a home birth, and we did the meditations, we did the mantras, we did the subconscious work, we did all, made sure there was no resistance. I was testing, no resistance to having a home birth. We got the whole idea, you know, the water pool, the candles, the incense, and that's where our daughter's going to be born. We were living in Bristol at the time, and that's how it was going to be. That's what we were going to do. So everything was aligned. Like literally, there was no resistance in me. I'm ready. My wife's ready. We've done all the tests, all the changes, all the gamma, all the beliefs, all the tapping, cleared the emotions, ready. All right. So on the Monday, we go in for the last scan. So it goes in for the last scan, and the lady said, "Oh, you've got, what's it called? Placenta previa, where either the baby or the placenta hasn't quite moved properly, and it's just blocking the cervix a little bit." So they said, "No, it hasn't moved enough." My wife's name's Emma. "I'm sorry, Emma, you're going to have a cesarean. This is the Monday. Can you come in on the Wednesday and have the cesarean?" And we're like, "Bloody hell, that's a bit soon. You know, can you give us a week?" So, "All right, you can come in on the following Monday." So we said, "All right." Oh. So we're like, "Oh, what happened to our intentions? Like, what happened? All the intentions that we've done, all the meditations, we're going to have a home birth, a water pool, the incense, the whale music, the whole bloody lot." So now we find ourselves going into South Meads Hospital in Bristol for a cesarean on the following, a week later. And we're like, what's all this about? Like, why? Like, why? So, and this is what I'm talking about, divine will. So we go to we're in the hospital at 7 o'clock the following Monday morning. She goes into the theatre, I go into the theatre, and, you know, they get on with it. And it was firstly mind-boggling to see. I'd never really thought too much about cesarean, but now I'm actually watching it and see what happens. I'm just like, oh my God. But what happened was, when there was a German lady, who was the anaesthetist, and she was super, super efficient, fortunately for us. So what happened was, when the surgeon, the anaesthetist, made the cut and was going in there, you know, to get the baby out, there was a surge of blood. And she quickly said to her teams, I can't remember the clamp. I want to clamp quickly, blah, blah, blah. And she was like a racing pit, like, blah, 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 quick now, go. And I'm like, what's going on like this? Anyway, the baby came out, everything was hunky-dory, no problem. 5'11", little baby girl, fantastic. And what she said was, she said, "Wow, here's the placenta, and you've got an extra set of blood vessels in that placenta. If you'd have tried to have a normal birth, that could have been fatal for the baby." And we're like, whoa, okay, can understand now. So that's what I call divine will. Our intentions were a home birth, water pool, etc. And what happened was, no, you had to have a cesarean. And the reason was, if you didn't, it could have been, you know, a very, very horrible situation. And we had a healthy baby girl who's very healthy today. And that that hospital is connected with Bristol University. And so we had to sign. They said, "Will you sign a waiver? We've never seen a placenta like this. It's got a whole extra, you know, set of blood sections going to it." The exact terms for it, I'm sure a bit more better than that. But yeah. So we sign a waiver. Would you mind us? You know, we want to analyze this in the lab and see what's different to this placenta. You know, so either we had an alien child or my wife's an alien in the first place. But that's what happened. You know, that's what happened. And so that's why I say sometimes, hey, maybe it's divine will. If things ain't playing out the way you want, maybe there's something else going on. You know. See a bit of chat there. Good to go. Does community connection lend to this consciousness to gain knowledge? Okay. Will there be a recording available? Yeah, it's recording. So the question is here from Bob: does community connection lend to this consciousness to gain from knowledge of other? Yeah, I think, you know, anytime there's emotionally bonded pairs with people that you like, you are probably more mentally and emotionally connected with them. I'm not sure whether that answers your question, Bob, but yeah. Okay, any more questions before we do the last section?
I'll add a comment if it's okay.
Yeah, please.
I liked your answer, because I truly believe that group consciousness leads us to be aware. As we choose to create our life, we can choose the kind of people we'll be around. And like, I feel the people you attract are the kind of people we are in bond with.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you, Bob. Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think, if you think about, if your energy field is a real thing for you and you understand that, right, then you resonate with that frequency and vibration of your energy field. That resonates with something and doesn't resonate with other things. And the things that you're not going to resonate with, you're not going to meet. It's not going to happen. You're just going to fly straight by because you're not on the same wavelength. I want to share another story with you whilst we're here, for the ones that are still here. Back in 2002, I was at the Monroe Institute again, and I'm on a program called MC Squared, which was called Manifestation Created Squared. And the whole idea of this program was a week-long program into psychokinesis. And psychokinesis is moving things with your mind, changing physical matter with your mind without any physical connection. The whole idea of the program was that. So the whole program was set up for you to be able to use experiments and tests and little games and stuff to try and use your mind to change physical matter. So, for example, we had at the start of the week we had two plants given us, and one plant we had to go and put in the garden and leave it, and the other plant we used to take it to bed with us, wake up with it, say hello to it, talk to it, stroke it like as if it's obviously it's a living thing. And then at the end of the week, we'd look at the two plants and see the changing growth. And we'd have about 25 to 40% increase in the growth of the plant that we'd been talking to and nurturing and loving and giving energy to, compared to the control which we left in the garden. We had experiments where we'd use neon light strips, just complete a neon light strip that you would plug in. And we'd get into this like high energy consciousness state, this heart-based state, and then we'd touch it with our hands. Now, we have a huge amount of biophoton emissions from our palms. Some researchers think we have more emissions from our eyes, our solar plexus, and our palms, biophoton emissions. These three areas that seem to be more emissions, interestingly. So when you get into this heart-centered state, you can literally hold these neon tubes and light it up. Like you could literally light it up from the energy, the photons that were coming from your palms by being in this coherent state, which was fun. But the main one was the spoon bending. So this was a big one. We left this towards the end of the week, the last day or two. And this is where they give you a spoon in the morning and you're going to do the spoon bending at night. And again, you can, or they give it you the day before and you can take this spoon to bed and you can talk to it and whatever. But the whole idea is to sort of have your head around that when you break the spoon down, it breaks down to energy and information. When you break your body down, it breaks down into energy and information. There's no difference at that fundamental level. So you should be able to, with your intention, affect that field of the spoon and somehow try and bend it. So this is interesting. Now I want to take you back a week before. I'm at the Monroe Institute for 2 weeks, and the first program I'm doing is a program called Lifelines, which is all about soul retrieval. And I'm going to do a whole nother masterclass on soul and soul retrieval. But my point being that it was a very, very powerful week. And on that course, so I'm doing 2 courses back to back, Lifelines then to MC Squared. So on that course, Lifelines, there's a guy on the course and his name's Rick. He's a pediatrician from Sacramento. This is 2002. And Rick was, he had done this MC Squared course before me. Previously, he'd done it. Now, one night we're playing around and we're doing some meditations and we're just having just sort of getting into the zone. And it's a very special place, the Monroe Institute. This guy, Rick, he's lying in the chair and he's got his eyes closed. And this, I swear to God, I'm telling you the truth, right? He got this, he said, pass me a spoon, pass me a spoon. And we gave him a spoon and he held the spoon and he corkscrewed it. He went, and he corkscrewed the spoon like that, right in front of my eyes. There's probably like 8 of us there. He's just lying back in this zone with his eyes closed. Give me a spoon, give me a spoon. And he went, and he corkscrewed the spoon. Now you see that in your own eyes. That's not magic. That's not like, pretend. That's a spoon. That's a metal spoon. You couldn't corkscrew a spoon if you tried it. Like, you couldn't do it. It would snap even if you were strong enough. You couldn't do it. So I'd seen that with my own eyes. Remember, the week before, I'm now on this course. So it comes to the section where we're on this course. Now, I've seen somebody do it. And this guy became a friend of mine. And he's, like I say, he's a pediatrician. He's a very logical, intelligent, academic man. So when it come to me being on this course, I took this spoon to bed. And I'm talking to this spoon in the morning. And I'm telling you, this is the truth. I'm telling you. I was holding this spoon, and it's about 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm in my booth. We sleep in those booths. We're waking up to these sounds. The electromagnetics are sealed out. I hold this spoon, and I'm so, as mad as it sounds, so at one with this spoon. Like, bearing in mind, I've been at the Monroe Institute now for 11 days. That's heavy going, right? Then I just go like this. And I bend the spoon. Like, from the shaft of the spoon to the bit you put in your mouth, about that much strength, and the spoon bent like that. And it didn't even freak me out. It didn't even, like, I was so, like, in the zone with all this stuff, so there, so in that heightened state that I'm like, yeah, thought so. And so that evening is when we did the spoon bending. I'd already done it. And then we had various different ways of doing that spoon bending. First, they put on some heavy rock music, and we see if that stimulated. Then they put on some flowing, like, orchestral type music, and that sort of softened you a little bit. There were various different methods of doing it, but every person, there was only one person in the group that didn't bend the spoon. Every person bent the spoons. And in the end, once you've done it once, your belief it's shattered. Like, oh my God. And then you could corkscrew it. There were 2 spoons that I corkscrewed. You could just go, you get the right time, you could just go, whoop, and it'll corkscrew. And that was, you can't have much more tangible, physical, right in front of you than you bending a spoon, understanding that your energy field is affecting that matter. You're not using strength. Now, it's very important to realize that I'm in a very special place, in a very special environment, very high vibes, everybody doing the same thing. I can't bend a spoon now. If I bring up a spoon, I can't do it now. And that's not my belief system. It just is what it is. You know, I think if I really got into that right state, that same state again, really deeply, immerse myself in that for a little while, then the spoon will go. But I came back with like a box full, like a little, I don't even draw for years of bent spoons and forks and stuff like that, So that happens. That happens. Your energy field, you can affect matter. Thanks for the comment, Ruth. The metaphysical teacher R.J. Spiner says that desire and intention is more effective than action in terms of manifestation. Well, I think that's bullshit, Ruth. That's what I think. I think that's bullshit. I think it's hype. I think it's sales hype. And you're going to say, okay, Mr. Metaphysical teacher, show me something then. Show me something. Make it happen. What you going to do with your magic? I just don't see how it can be. I don't see how it can have more power than actually taking the action on the goal. Like, yes, of course, desire is powerful. Intention is powerful. But it isn't more powerful than actually taking the action. If you've got 2 people and their goal is the same, to make £1 million, and one does intention and desire and mantra and visualization and all the subconscious work, and the other one does all the same as well, except the other one has got a whole marketing strategy about how to go to market and a product to sell or a service to offer. I know where my money's going to be on who makes the money, not the one that's just talking about desire and intention. I think that's fluff. I think there's so many people in the industry that say that. I watched a guy the other day, oh, it's all about your frequency. No, it's not. Firstly, it's about vibration, frequency, and resonance. There are 3 aspects to that. The vibration, the frequency of that vibration, and what that's going to resonate with. But we are in a world of action. We're in a world where nothing happens unless we do something. So I think there's so many people like that say that because they probably want to sell you something, and human beings are lazy. And we all like the idea of having a magic wand and creating our life exactly the way we want it with no problems. We're all financially free. Relationships are awesome. Our health's amazing. And our life's the best thing ever. Well, let's look around. Is that happening? No, not really, not for many people, is it? I don't believe it. So I appreciate the comment, Ruth, because it stimulates a bit of discussion. But that's my thoughts. Of course, everything I've explained tonight is highlighted the power of our mind, of our energy field, of our consciousness, of our intention. But there's action required. And I think that's where many people fall down. They don't take the action. And the reason probably is because underneath, they either don't know what action to take, or their feelings are not allowing them to take that action. Their feelings and their beliefs are not allowing them to take the action required. That's what I think. So let's do this test. So the test is like this. You're going to put your palm of your hand, and it's going to go on your belly button. And in a minute, I'm going to ask you to close your eyes, and I'm going to give you 6 belief statements. And in these belief statements, I want you to score yourself 0 to 100% on how much you believe each one of these belief statements. Now, you're going to go by your gut feel, not your logical analysis. So you can think about it logically afterwards. This is like going for a gut feel. Now, remember what I said, that your palm of your hand emits extra, biophotons. So you're going to put that on your belly button, where there's a lot of emissions coming out the gut. And if there's incoherence, if you're not fully there, you will know that at that subconscious level, and it's important to go by your gut feel, that instant sort of gut feel. Don't try and analyze it after, think about it after. That's a conscious mind, and we want the subconscious reaction, okay? So I'm going to give these statements one at a time, and then I want you to score yourself 0 to 100%, how much you believe each one of these statements, okay? So first things first, palm on the belly button. Which side, left or right? Doesn't matter. Which hand, you mean? Yeah, it doesn't matter, John. Anyone you like. And really, the palm on the belly button is really to give you that signal consciously, but also to tell your brain, pay attention to my gut. And the gut send that signal to my brain. The gut sends about 85%, 90% more signals to the brain than the brain sends to the gut. So again, that's another part of another masterclass. However, let's do this then, okay? So close your eyes, and you're scoring yourself 0 to 100%. It is safe for me to manifest my goals and desires. I deserve to manifest my goals and desires. All parts of me are ready, willing, and able to manifest my goals and desires. It is natural for me to manifest my goals and desires. It is in my best and highest good to manifest my goals and desires. I love myself enough to manifest my goals and desires. Okay, and that's it. I don't give you much time because it's a gut feel. It's not about analysis. So you'd have scored yourself there 0 to 100% on each of those 6 beliefs. But the reality is, if you're not 100% on each of those, that means there's a part of you at that subconscious level that is holding you back. There's a part of you subconsciously that's not fully aligned with manifestation. If you're not 100% on all of those, then you're broadcasting that in your field. It's safe for me to manifest my goals and desires. If that's not 100%, then why would that happen? You don't believe it's safe for it to happen. Now, we're not talking about the conscious level, obviously. We're talking about that subconscious level. So you can work through those. All parts of me are ready, willing, and able to manifest my goals and desires. If you're not 100% on that, then part of you is going that way for the goal, and part of you is chaining you and holding you to your past history. So that's not going to help you. Okay, so now I'm going to guide you into the gamma mindset technique. We're going to integrate those beliefs. We're going to come out of that, and then you can score yourself again, and you can see how these have increased. Okay, So the gamma mindset technique is a technique that I created that creates this peak brain state called gamma, which allows us to do rapid reprogramming of the mind. This is something that I measured over 14 years for my PhD dissertation. And it's the only technique in psychology that's scientifically proven to reprogram the mind and increase self-belief, confidence, performance, focus, and well-being by reprogramming the mind. Okay, so at this point in the presentation, I was about to do a guided gamma mindset session to integrate the core beliefs for manifestation. But it was quite interesting what happened. Somebody in the audience must have had their microphone on, and somebody made a call to them and was leaving a voice message to them. They seemed to be totally unaware that it was going live into the presentation. So during the process of going into gamma and integrating these beliefs, there was this voice message in the background and all that sort of stuff. So I've edited it out because it doesn't help, and it won't help you in this. But if you want to do a free session of the gamma mindset to integrate new beliefs, all you have to do is go to gammamindset.com on the homepage. You can sign up and you go through to a free session there. So you can get the session anyway. So that's what I suggest. Go to gammamindset.com, sign up and get your free session. It's been fun. It's been a good couple of hours. Anybody got any questions or anything you want to say before we wrap?
Yes.
Yes, John.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'm so happy to see you like in video, and I'm so excited. I'm on the Mind Body Mastery program, and I bought it for a couple of years ago, but now I'm in the week 9 and 10, and I'm a musician, and I do it even on the bus when I'm on the gig, you know. And I tell you, it's been amazing. I mean, I'm so excited to do this more and more, and I tried so many different kind of thing, breath work, meditation, all kind of stuff. But this kind of stuff this method is the most effective method I ever tried, and I'm very humbled, and I'm very lucky, very fortunate to know this technique. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, that's very kind. It's very kind of you to say. I appreciate that. You sound like a stooge, like you've come on at the end of the thing to promote my program.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say that. I think that I cannot stand for no fuck all. No, never.
I appreciate it.